Hello guys, I hope that you are all doing alright. This video is going to be different from my normal videos as you can tell by the voiceover and gameplay, but it is a video that I want to make for you all. Today I deleted my Instagram account and it will be deleted completely next month. Now, you might be asking me, why did you do that? And we'll get to that later in the video. But for now, I want to describe my time on Instagram, my experience, and what led me to make this decision in the first place. Before the video commences, yes, this is a sequel to my Discord experience video that I released 4.5 years ago, where I talked about my experiences on Discord in chronological order. This video's format will be a little bit different, partially because I have a script, so I'm not doing improv and attempting to recall every experience I have had. Instead, I'll discuss a brief timeline from my Instagram account and then the core parts of my experience that killed my love for this app. Without further ado, let's get into the video. In order to get to where I am now with how I feel about Instagram, we need some backstory. Around September of 2018, I think it was the September the 7th, but I am not 100% sure, I got my first phone ever. It was a Moto G6 and it symbolized a new era of my life, which would be that I would be more online and internet focused than ever before. On the same day, or next day, I made my first Instagram account. Sadly, I could not find the original account username, but it is the Instagram account that was linked in my YouTube descriptions and about page. Anyways, my first 5 or so years on Instagram were relatively uneventful and harmless. I would post at most once a month. I was never a massive poster, nor did I share many Instagram stories. I mainly followed content from YouTubers I was already subscribed to, and that was basically it. I found my personal friends from middle school and eventually high school on Instagram, and we would be mutual followers and like one another's posts. Instagram became so uneventful that in late 2022 to early 2023, I went completely silent. I didn't post, comment, like, or do anything inside the app to the point I considered deleting it. But this would all change during my Montreal vacation about 2 years ago. That time was when my family saw a French language singer named Angèle, and that concert completely blew me away because of the incredible atmosphere and talent that was on display provided by Angèle. I think I have over 50 pieces of media from that concert alone, both pictures and videos. This is what sparked me to keep up with her. And since my dad was already doing that via Instagram, I figured I would do the same. However, it wasn't just that I was going to keep up with this person and the community through Instagram. I started getting invested in the app. My habit of commenting on posts and watching every single story began. Between May 2023 and a few months ago, I spent 2 to 3 hours per day endlessly scrolling Instagram, even after all relevant content from the people I followed was over with. This is where it leads to the doomscrolling, which is what I will talk about later on. Now that you're caught up to speed with my Instagram history, let's get on to the detriments of Instagram. Let's make one thing very clear. Every social media has an issue of spam bots and scams. This is not anything remotely new, but it was very rampant on Instagram. For example, in my early days of Instagram, say from 2018 to 2020, several of my followers' accounts were hacked by various scams. They usually followed the format of a message saying that they made a collage or edit of my Instagram pictures, which would link me to some kind of scam, which I assume is trying to trick these 13-year-olds at the time into thinking they are going to be famous or something like that. Luckily, I did not fall for any of these scams, but I still got a lot of spam DMs from the same scam for like a few months. The bot problem on Instagram mainly lies with accounts that relate to porn models for OnlyFans. They often target men who fall into the delusion that they have a chance with a person who works in porn, all because they don't have a filter when it comes to privacy. Usually, you'll see that they will like your stories, posts, etc., etc. In some cases, they'll even DM you and try to get you to follow them. And in some particular instances, recently, they would ask me to follow their other account because they don't want to get caught messaging on their other account? Whatever that means. In the grand scheme of things, this is not the end of the world. I mean, after all, nobody falls for the classic scams anymore. And bots and comment sections and notifications can be blocked, but it doesn't change how pervasive they are. Every time I block a bot, two new ones just pop up. It just ends up being annoying to people who just want to post to their friends and followers. I'm sure everyone is aware of the meme that Instagram Reels comments are a whole nother breed entirely when it comes to comment sections on social media. And honestly, it is not that far off. I've run into many comment sections on Instagram that were cancerous and ignorant. On the screen are a couple of comment sections on sports pages, and this is small potatoes compared to the other ones I've seen. One of the biggest problems about the comments sections on Instagram that I've noticed is that they tend to put controversial comments right at the top of the page, which encourages a lot of people, myself included, to fall into the engagement bait and write a reply about how wrong and stupid and brainless they are. Now, I used to dedicate part of my life to commenting on Instagram posts, and that was mentally draining. In some instances, I would insult people in the comments section who either had a take I didn't agree with, or they had a take that just wasn't worth anybody's time since it was so bad. This time wasting effort led to a massive change in my life, where I completely stopped looking at Instagram comment sections so that I wouldn't be tempted to respond. This decision ended up expanding to YouTube. I don't make as many comments as I used to since the majority of my previous comments were snarky replies. Leaving snarky replies doesn't benefit either party. Telling people what to do online only makes them more resistant to change, and the poster's energy is drained over nothing. Now, the last two gripes with Instagram were relatively easy to solve, and if that's where it ended, I would probably still be on Instagram. But this third gripe caused me to completely pull the trigger and delete my account. I do warn you that the next part here is going to be political. If you're uncomfortable with that, please skip this part of the video. I'll put up a timestamp. So, with that aside, I talked about doom scrolling earlier, and if you're unsure what that means, it basically means tediously scrolling content on social media, usually content that involves politics, shock value, or rage bait. Since the 2024 election, my Instagram feed started to be filled with politics. In the last few months, it got even worse, and I constantly saw political advertisements from far right advertisers. You know, the typical end wokeness or MAGA hats for sale or projecting Christianity into these issues, that kind of stuff. On the other side of the coin, I saw many terrifying headlines, theories, and maddening political stories pop up into my Instagram feed. It didn't matter how much I filter it, there was always another political story that related to the topic with different words. Whether it was with Trump or Supreme Court or Epstein or whatever, it didn't end. On top of the politics, I always got recommended repetitive content that I've already seen several times. At this point, I wasn't gaining much of anything from scrolling Instagram. I tried putting a 35-minute time limit, but it didn't stop me from seeing content I wasn't satisfied with. And it certainly didn't stop me from bypassing the app timer. The worst part of all of this is that some of this political content came from personal friends or acquaintances. It was hard to be on stories and not find politics or political memes that induced shock and fear and ruined my Instagram experience. And yes, of course, I am aware of the muting story function and filtering content, but no matter how much I've muted and filtered and all of that, I always got new content that pissed me off or scared me. Listen, I have no issue with posting politics to your Instagram stories. Making people more aware of the issues that surround our world is not a bad idea by any means. In fact, the majority of politics I read on personal friends' stories were issues I agreed with and even advocate for. I consider myself a progressive person, and stories that I would see calling out people like Donald Trump or Elon or some other person were stories I agreed with. There's no mistaking that. However, in my opinion, I find it unproductive to continue to feed into politics on social media. It's not because I don't want to be informed, it's because I don't use social media for the news that I keep up with. These political posts and stories, whether I agreed with them or not, were mentally draining on me, and that's what led me to make the decision to leave Instagram. So this is where we are at. After 7 years, my journey on Instagram and basically most social media is over. Now that I don't have Instagram, the only social media I have left is YouTube. While I use Facebook for Marketplace, I don't count that since I don't use it for any other purpose. The more I go on social media, the more I realize that it's not all cracked up to be. Besides YouTube, I never got productive entertainment value out of the social media platforms I was on, and that includes Instagram. I am genuinely tired of falling into the trap of endlessly scrolling content and that being the only part of my day. I am straying away from the scrolling in exchange for focusing on my YouTube channel, my family and friends' activities, studying in college, and developing new hobbies that don't involve electronics. While I could have kept Instagram if I truly took the time to filter content, in the end, I was still had the issue of endlessly scrolling on an app that I don't get as much fulfillment out of as YouTube. I believe deleting Instagram will be for the best for me and my mental health. Looking back, I used to be so chronically online to the point it affected my brain. My latest Instagram experience is small potatoes compared to my Discord experience from 5 years ago. That experience was fueled by stupidity, drama, and hatred. 5 years later, and I have no social media if you don't count YouTube. With that said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that I one day return to Instagram or any other social media. However, with where the internet and the world is going as a whole, and the lack of decent content, and the rise in addiction, I do not want to be a part of the problem anymore. If I were to come back on Instagram or any other social media platform, it would be under a new account with a feed that I carefully filter. Before you all ask, no, I will not be quitting YouTube. I thoroughly enjoy creating content for you all. Video creation, after all, is truly my passion, and I cannot imagine my life without it or you guys. And this concludes my Instagram experience. This leads me to tell you all that social media is not worth the hype. If you truly have more negative experiences on social media than positive ones, I highly recommend leaving. It is genuinely hard for some people to escape the doom scroll trap, but once you get out, life gets a lot easier. Life's too short to kick the can down the road and keep platforms that do not satisfy you. We all need to have hobbies we enjoy, and it doesn't have to involve computers, tablets, or phones. With that said, if you made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you listening to me yap about a social media experience I had. I'll be sure to make more Go Animate videos this last month before I go to college. See you all in my next video.